that goal setting time of year again, the time of year where people optimistically dive headfirst into a total life makeover, just like they did last year, and the year before that, and the year before that. And if you clicked on this video, I'm guessing that you are one of the millions of people who set very ambitious resolutions year after year only to have them fall apart by the time February rolls around. And I'm also guessing that you would like this year to be a little bit different. And if that's the case for you, then I have really good news, because the reason why your goals haven't been sticking year after year is actually obnoxiously simple and really easy to fix. So in this video, we're going to break down why you keep struggling to make progress on the things that are actually important to you, the very simple step-by-step process for setting better goals that you'll actually keep, and a foolproof method to keep you on track throughout the entire year. So have a pen and paper handy and let's get into it. To start off with, I want to show you why the kinds of goals that people usually set are really prone to failure, especially over the long term, so that you can see why the method I'm going to share is different and will actually work. Most of the advice out there on how to set better, more actionable goals is centered around the concept of SMART goals. SMART goals are goals that are specific, so you are being very explicit in what you're trying to achieve. They're measurable, so you have something that you are able to track in order to assess your progress. They are achievable in that they're realistic goals. They're actually something that you can attain. They're relevant, so it's something that's important to you, that's actually applicable in your daily life, and they are timely, which means that you have a specific amount of time in which you are giving yourself to achieve that goal. And this isn't a bad place to start when it comes to goal setting, but if that's all that you're doing, your goals will absolutely fail. Let me show you. Here's an example of a very common SMART goal that I've seen clients make. I will lose 40 pounds in 6 months. This goal ticks all of the SMART goal boxes. It is very specific, it is measurable, so you can track your weight loss progress by weighing yourself. 40 pounds in 6 months is an average rate of weight loss of 1.5 pounds per week, which is not an unachievable rate of weight loss. It is relevant, and the person gave themselves a time frame through which to achieve that goal. But this is what usually happens when somebody sets a goal like that. Usually people start off strong and they set themselves up for success by getting a gym membership, new fitness clothes, a water bottle. They might do a thorough pantry clean out and stock their refrigerator full of healthy food. And they usually start off really strong in the first couple of weeks and are often rewarded by seeing the number on that scale creep down a little bit. But then something typically happens to break up their flow. They have a family emergency they have to deal with, they go on vacation, they have a really rough week at work, and they end up skipping the gym a few times and maybe don't have the time or the energy to do the meal prep that they need to do. And so they slide a little bit back into old habits and they see that weight on the scale start to stagnate. So they double down and try to get back on track. And even though they feel like they have done everything right, they don't see the number on that scale budge after a week, and that leaves them feeling frustrated. Like all of their hard work was for nothing. And then maybe they go out to eat with friends or they go to a party and they think, fuck it, I'll just eat whatever I want. And they may rationalize that they're not very far along in the progress of their goal, so starting over from scratch now wouldn't really be that big of an impact. It's not as though their effort is yielding much anyway. And then for a month or so, they may just vacillate here between being fed up, going back to buckling down, then going back to being really frustrated, until ultimately they just slide back into their old habits for the rest of the year, just to start fresh in January. If this pattern sounds familiar to you, let me know in the comment section. So why does this happen? Ultimately, it comes down to how they set their goals and what their headspace is around those goals. And specifically, there are 3 big errors that people make. Let me break them down. So for the first one, let's say that you're planning a trip cross country. You can't just pick a destination and poof, you get there. You have to be really specific about how you're gonna get there. Are you gonna drive? Are you gonna take a bus? Are you gonna take a plane? What is the cost gonna be? Are you gonna need places to stay along the way? These are all very vital and concrete steps that are a lot more important to focus on than the destination itself. So bringing this into the world of goal setting, the first error is not being specific about how you're going to achieve your goal. So don't set your sights on the benefit that you ultimately want to have, and don't let that be the thing that you track. Rather, focus on the behaviors that are going to help you achieve that goal, because achieving any long-term goal requires consistent, ongoing action. You can't achieve anything just by having a vision and hoping that it comes to pass. And this is true for any goal that you might set. You want to lose weight? Awesome. How are you going to do that? You want to double your income this year? Great. What are the steps that you need to take? These results don't happen in a vacuum, so it's a lot less useful to focus on the result only, because that makes it a lot easier to waffle around and not actually do the work that's going to help you make progress. Moving on to error number 2. To illustrate my next point, I want to tell you a story. When I originally went off to college, I was studying art history because I wanted to go into art conservation. And that career path required a lot of art history classes and also a lot of chemistry classes. When it came time to write my senior thesis for art history, I poured my heart and soul into that paper. It was a tremendous amount of work and it was something I was really proud of, and I had gotten consistently positive feedback from all the faculty advisors who helped me along the way. But when I finally submitted my thesis to be graded, I got a C on that paper, and that was largely because the professor didn't love the topic I had chosen. I was devastated, and this experience ultimately led me to change majors and get my degree in biochemistry instead. I was so mad that I could work on something so hard and have nothing to show for it because of somebody's opinion. And the reason why I ultimately changed my major to go into biochemistry is because I loved the objective nature of science, where the quality of my work and the grade that I received in my courses was directly proportional to the effort that I put into it. If I got something wrong, it was very clear what I needed to do differently, and I could always achieve the result that I wanted if I worked hard enough. If only my experience working as a researcher was so cut and dry. And this dynamic is exactly why a goal like I want to lose 40 pounds in 6 months will almost always fail for most people. Because weight loss is never linear and is almost never proportional to the effort that you put in. Which means that the likelihood that you're going to experience frustration at some point in that weight loss process is really high. And it is really challenging to stay focused and motivated when you are feeling frustrated. And if every single habit that you are working on cultivating is in service of a goal that is not guaranteed, then the way that you feel about those habits and your commitment to following through on them is going to live or die based on the results that you're seeing. To fix this, you need to change the goals that you're setting and the goals that you're tracking to be ones where the result that you have is guaranteed to be proportional to the effort that you put in. And I'll show you how to do this in just a minute. But first I want to talk about error number 3. And this is basically my beef with the whole concept of SMART goals. And that is the T part. I think that for any long-term goals, having a time frame in mind actually leads people to self-sabotage. Because our brains really struggle to conceptualize and work towards long-term goals where the payoff is sometime distant in the future. So when we set goals that are 6 months or a year out, it is really easy to kick the can on taking action because our brain says, well, I still have a lot of time left. And we will do that until there is absolutely no possible way for us to still achieve our goal in the amount of time that's left, and that's when we just give up. So having a time frame for a very short-term goal, something that you're going to try to accomplish over the course of a week or 2 weeks, I think that can be effective. But when you are looking at long-term goals that you want to work on over the course of the year, I highly recommend people not think about time frame. So how can we set better goals that we're actually going to stick to over the long term that are not going to lead to frustration? So to show you how this goal setting process works, I'm going to use our example of I'd like to lose 40 pounds in 6 months, and we're going to break that down into something that's actually going to be more useful. But I encourage you to follow along and write your own goals. Step 1, I want you to write out the overarching result that you want to have. So again, this could be something like weight loss, or I want to run a marathon, or I want to double my income, or I want to have more friends this year, something big. And from that, I want you to list 3 to 4 things that you are going to have to do consistently in order to achieve that result. And in order to come up with these things, it can be really helpful to imagine a future version of you that has already achieved the result that you want to have. What does that person do every day? What do they do that is different from what you are currently doing now? It's helpful to think about it this way because typically in order to achieve a long-term goal, you have to become somebody new who is regularly putting in the work. And that is not who you are right now, which is why you have not achieved that goal. So for our example, the person who wants to lose weight, they may have identified that the things they need to do to achieve that result are to meal prep regularly, to cut down on junk food, and to go to the gym regularly. Step 2, with those 3 to 4 actions that you just wrote down, if those are things that you have tried to do in the past, I want you to write out 1 to 2 barriers that kept you from doing those things consistently. And if they're not things that you've tried to do in the past, are there aspects of those actions that you anticipate are going to be hard for you? So back to our example, that person may have identified that they've been unsuccessful at meal prepping in the past because 1, it takes too much time, and 2, they often get bored of the healthier foods because it just doesn't taste as good. When it comes to cutting down on junk food, well, the biggest barrier is that junk food is really convenient and they're often strapped for time. And when it comes to going to the gym daily, well, they're often tired and don't have the energy to go. And if they're being honest, they don't really like working out. Step 3. Come up with 1 to 2 solutions for the barriers you identified. So let's come up with some solutions for our weight loss goal. To get around the barrier of meal prepping feeling like it takes too much effort, they could just start smaller and commit to doing 1 meal every single week, maybe something that's easy like a 1-pot meal. And to get around the fact that the healthy food feels less exciting, they could commit to making 1 new recipe every week so that they can slowly expand their repertoire of healthy foods at home that they actually enjoy. To get around the barrier of how convenient junk food is, they could really focus on making sure that they have a lot of really easy, accessible snacks that are in line with their health goals available at all times so they don't have to do any prep in the moment. And to help them get around their barriers to working out, they could start with a much smaller goal. So instead of trying to go to the gym for like 45 minutes every day, could they start with just a 10-minute home workout every day? And if they don't ultimately like the kinds of exercise they do at the gym, can they start exploring new ways to move their body so that maybe they can find something that they do enjoy? And step 4, turn those solutions into the goals that you actually track. So now let's turn our example into actionable goals. So instead of having the nebulous goal of I want to lose 40 pounds in 6 months, somebody's goals instead may look like this. I will try one new healthy recipe every single week so that I can find new options that I enjoy. I will batch prep one large one-pot meal every single week. I will create a designated snack box every week so that I have really easy snack options readily available. I will do 2 minutes of an at-home workout every single day. And I will try one new way to move my body every single month to help me find something that I enjoy doing. These goals are much more specific, they are more actionable and way less overwhelming and nebulous, and their success for every single one of these goals is going to be proportional to the amount of work they put in. So, for example, if they do 10 minutes of an at-home workout every single day, well, then they will have achieved their goal. If they put in that effort, they will have achieved the goal. But having goals like this is not the end of the process if you want to achieve something big, because you can absolutely still fall off the wagon with these things. In order to actually stay the course and make progress, this next step is going to be absolutely vital, which is step 5 in this process, and that is to evaluate your performance. So after you set these goals, wait a few weeks and then evaluate how you did. Were you successful on them? Did some of these goals fall flat on their face? And remember here that failing is actually a really important part of any behavior change process, because falling off your goal or not completing it tells you that there was something about how you were approaching that goal that was not working. And if you can look at that as a data point, then you can actually do smart and effective troubleshooting to figure out how to accomplish these goals in a way that actually works for you. So to show you how this works, let's go back to our example and see how their goals performed. So starting with the first goal of making one new recipe a week, let's say the person found that strategy really helpful, not overwhelming. They have new recipes they really liked. It was great. Awesome. Let's keep up with that goal then. And let's say that their second goal of making one big batch of something every week didn't work so well for them because they got bored of eating the same thing day after day. That tells us that we need a different strategy. So maybe instead of that, they could focus on just prepping the ingredients in advance so that cooking day of is a lot less labor intensive. Or maybe they can focus on freezing any leftovers that they don't want to eat so they can build up a freezer stash of a variety of meals so they always have something new at their fingertips. So either of those could be their new goal in place of making a one-pot meal every week. Moving on to their goal of having a box full of readily available healthy snacks, let's say that they did find that very helpful, but they're still finding themselves craving a lot of junk food because they're not finding a lot of the foods that they're eating now all that pleasurable. So maybe something they could try to get around this is to try to increase the pleasure that they're experiencing throughout their week. So they could do something like having one intentional planned dessert every single day that they can be excited about and look forward to, which might help them feel less deprived. Now, for the 10 minutes of exercise, let's just say that they didn't do it at all. They never did it one time. That tells us that that strategy does not work for them. So what would work for them? One thing that they could try is to make their exercise more social. Is there a way for them to go and do a workout class with a friend or join a walking group or something like that? So maybe a goal could be to try to look for opportunities to make exercise more social. Let's say they also didn't actually try a new exercise once a month. Maybe that could be roped into it too. So maybe they could set a goal of taking a friend and going and doing something fun that's active. When you go through this process, you are actively engaging in your habits and you are an active participant in figuring out how to make them work for you. It's not just oh, I didn't do it, then I should just try harder, because there's a reason why you didn't do it. And it is your job to figure out what that reason is and figure out how to get past that barrier, because otherwise you're always going to be stuck. When you approach goal setting and evaluation this way, failure is not just something to force yourself past. It is an important data point so that you can create systems that actually work for you. It also helps you get past the all or nothing thinking that gets people stuck into constantly doing cleanses and resets and starting over from scratch, because your lifestyle is a lot more fluid than that, and it should be treated as something dynamic that is always going to require some amount of attention and care. So I hope this workshop was helpful for you. If you use this to set some goals and you'd like to share them, definitely drop those goals in the comment section below. I'd love to see what you guys are working on. See you in the next video.